Hello everybody and welcome to the Cookery, located here in the village pantry of Roscoe Village, Coshocton, Ohio. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit fun. It's going to be done with eggs, and tonight our cook, not a chef, got to be careful with those things, Miss Christy. Christy, take it away.
Hi everybody, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm just going to get my cast iron heated up here. Well, I am not a chef. I am just someone who loves to cook and has for a really long time. I learned to cook from my mother, who's here tonight, and all the way through growing up here in Coshocton County, I was in 4-H and did all the cooking projects and so forth there, and I have been a good student of Chef Rochelle when she's here, so I have my onion prepped like she has taught me. The root end is still attached, and I need to dice my onion, so here I go. First thing we're going to make tonight with eggs is a frittata. Now, frittata is using scrambled eggs, just like a quiche would, except there's no milk. The main ingredient and the thing to shine is the egg itself. I personally love making frittata because I can look at my refrigerator and say, what do I have left over from this week that I can put in my frittata? I almost always have a base of onions and potatoes. So I already have a potato grated. And sometimes I use potatoes. Sometimes I'll use rice if that's left over. But that's going to be the base of what I put into my frittata. All the other stuff that you want to add is completely up to you and your preference and tastes and flavors. We're doing a very simple one today with just spinach, goat cheese, and mushrooms. So my cast iron had heated up a little bit prior to this time, and then I already had olive oil in there. Give it a little bit more heat. Now this is going in the oven, so I don't need to worry about the potatoes or onions cooking all the way through. So I'm just going to saute it kind of like a hash. This frittata would be enough for 8 to 10 people. It will make a nice thick slice of an egg dish. If I wanted to make it for a smaller number of people, just a couple, I use a smaller pan. It has to be oven safe because it goes in the oven in the end, but my husband and I love to make them on a Saturday morning for breakfast. And just the two of us, we use an 8-inch skillet, and that's just cracking 4 eggs instead of 8. So a quiche also features a crust. A frittata is not going to have a crust. So if you have a gluten issue or you're trying to cut down on the flour goods in your diet, this is a great way to do that. Very easy and simple, and you're still getting a nice complete meal. Now, eggs fixed this way like a frittata are not limited just to breakfast. This makes a wonderful evening meal paired with a green salad and a light vinaigrette dressing. Or think of a brunch, a real light brunch. You have a fruit salad on the side. I'm going to add in some mushrooms. And the important thing here about mushrooms is that they already have a lot of moisture in them. So we don't want to add to that moisture by rinsing them off in water. I'm just going to brush that off a little bit with a dry brush. And I'm doing it over the trash can back here for those of you who don't know what's behind me. We're behind the counter. And I like to just have them in quarters I'll trim any of the stems that look a little dry or off. And just cut it right into quarters. In half one way and then the next. I am not very particular about how I cut my vegetables, as far as it doesn't have to be super precise. Toss it right in there. And while I'm sauteing that, I want to pass around an egg timer. This egg timer I'll use when I'm done with the frittata, and I want you to feel the weight of this and the shape. And this is the card that comes with it. Janie and Chris have these in the store, and I use one of these at home. And what happens is it lays in the pan as you're hard boiling an egg, and if you just want it soft boiled, you wait until the soft line is not red anymore. And then a medium boil, it's even smaller amount of red, and a hard boil is the smallest amount of red. You can see the card explains that as well. I'll pass that around, and when it gets to the back, I will need it back. I don't have my handy little cast iron handle cover on here. Okay. I also need to add my spinach. So I'm just going to do this by the handful. There's one. There's two. And maybe a little bit extra for good measure. Now, eggs do provide a very important source of lutein. The lutein is fantastic for the health of your eyes. It will help prevent macular degeneration. Other sources of lutein, well, we usually find foods that are high in lutein are paired with something fatty. Because it is fat soluble, your body needs a little bit of fat to absorb it. So you could eat all these wonderful eggs and then not be able to absorb the lutein. And my spinach is wilted enough right here, so I've just turned off my burner because I don't need that to cook anymore. The point I was making with the lutein is that the olive oil present in this is enough. You don't need any more than what is present in here for the lutein to become available or to be absorbed. So I crack my eggs into a separate bowl when I'm going to use so many at a time, so I don't contaminate 7 good eggs with one bad one. So I need a total of 8 eggs for this. And that way if I get a shell, it isn't a huge deal. It's only in 1 egg, and I don't have to throw away 7. This is what I was telling Jen earlier. I should have cracked half of these eggs ahead of time. And then I thought, no, I don't need to do that. Whoops, didn't dump that one yet. There's 4.
You haven't mastered the one-handed? I was asked that today myself.
I don't want to try that in front of people.
Have you tried it by yourself?
Yes, I have.
I have.
You know, you're the best chef when you're at home by yourself.
Does your husband cook, Christy?
Sorry?
Does your husband cook?
Yes. Usually he is the one who makes the frittatas. He is very good at them. Now, some of his favorite ingredients are sun-dried tomatoes and spinach and feta cheese. That's his favorite combination. And the beauty of this is that you can use any combination you want. I put a few other combinations. I'm not sure if I included it with you, but you can think of like on your paper, think of the Denver omelet. You do a little ham, some diced ham, peppers, cheddar cheese, and then you've got that kind of flavor going on, and then you have a little meat in there if you really want some meat.
You have to put cheese in it all?
You do not have to. No, I just enjoy it. Okay, I'm going to season with a little bit of salt and pepper. I did not season the potatoes or the onions because I knew I wanted to put it in my eggs. There's no reason to season it all twice. And I always add a little bit of water for good measure. Don't ask me why. It's just what I do. One of those things. I probably saw somebody do it once and decided that's what I always had to do. But whenever I'm making an omelet or a frittata, I add a little bit of water. It pours right on top. And then my cheese, which I've chosen to use goat cheese today, it usually comes in a log. It is a soft cheese, so I'm just going to cut off about an inch of it and kind of crumble it into my frittata, right on the top. And here you can add as much or as little as you want. This is a very, very soft cheese, so it's going to kind of melt like butter into the frittata. The feta cheese is a little bit harder if you wanted to use that. It still does get kind of creamy, which is a fun little texture with the feta. And I'm just going to poke this around with my cheese fork a little bit and make sure I have everything covered as I want. And pop that in the oven. I have it at 350. It goes in for about 20 minutes. Sure if I punched the right thing. Do I do cooking time or kitchen timer?
I got you, good.
Okay. But we can all watch our clocks too. It's 5 till 7 now, so
How much onion and potato did you use?
that was just half of a very large onion that I used.
Okay.
And I used 2 small potatoes.
Okay.
That's what I had for that amount.
Okay.
If it's just for 2 people, like my husband and I, when we do a frittata, we just have leftovers. Whenever we have a chopped onion that we're using in a recipe that week, we don't throw away the little bits. We just kind of put it in a dish and save it because we know it's probably going to come in handy for something like the frittata later on. And the same with the potato. If your potato is already cooked, by all means, add a cooked potato. It doesn't matter. If you want to dice it instead of grate it, that's fine. If it is already raw though, or if it's still raw, you want to make sure that it's small enough that it will cook in the amount of time you're allowing it to cook. So I made a frittata earlier, and that has a diced potato in it. And it has the spinach and the goat cheese as well, but it doesn't have any mushrooms. So this one will have mushrooms and that one does not. So, another fun combination for the frittata, if you wanted to try a real light one, maybe for a brunch, would be leeks and dill. And you could leave the cheese out of that one and then have a real thin frittata with a muffin or something on the side. And that makes a very nice brunch with fresh fruit too. So you all got to see this. Okay, I'm going to wash it off real quick. And we're going to try to time a couple eggs. I'm I'm gonna boil some water here on the back stove while we're working on something else. And then if I can remember to look at it frequently enough, I'll pull them out at the different stages so we can see what they look like. It'll be a surprise for everyone. I don't want to put my egg timer in until I put my eggs in. So I want to remember that. It's going to stay over here. Just turning my water on to boil. There we go. Okay, if it starts steaming behind me, let me know.
Christy, do you ever make an egg white frittata?
I have not, but that's certainly something you can do if you're watching cholesterol. An egg white frittata, and that brings me to something I wanted to share about storing eggs. The cholesterol in an egg is a good cholesterol for your body, but like anything, you don't want to overdo it. So 3 eggs for breakfast in the morning is more than the average person needs. 1 egg is plenty. If you're doing something, a large item like a frittata or a quiche, I put 8 eggs in there because I'm estimating 8 servings out of that. So that's 1 egg per person. But if you want to lessen the cholesterol, you can just do egg whites. Add egg whites and like maybe 5 whole eggs and then 3 or 4 egg whites. And then for those occasions that you have to use only whites or only yolks, you can freeze them. They're not going to be exactly the same when you use them. When I have frozen egg whites, I will add those to an omelet. It's not something I'm going to make a meringue out of. Over here, the yolks you can freeze, but you have to add salt or sugar. Once it's frozen in the tray, which I'm not going to use these because I put them both in one tray, but I just wanted everyone to see. Once you have them in the tray, you can pop them out just like ice cubes and store them in a freezer container such as this or a baggie. And that way you can just pull out 1 egg at a time. I put sugar in these because I'm more prone to use my yolks for a sugary item. And I would store that separate from yolks with salt. If you're more prone to use your yolks to make a hollandaise sauce or something savory, then you would use salt. And I had to break out the yolk and stir it around with about a teaspoon of sugar or a teaspoon of salt, and then it's frozen.
Per egg?
Per egg. This is 1 yolk in here. The whites overflow just a little bit when I'm using these large farm fresh eggs. There's a little bit more white in there than my little ice cube tray can hold. So I had 3 eggs broken here. There's 3 yolks, but you can see there's about 5 cubes of white. So you could remember that when you pull them out, maybe 2 cubes of white would equal 1 egg. 1 egg white that's fresh. Does that make sense? I just wanted to show that to you because I think it's a really neat trick.
I think it'll be a great place for a break.
Okay.
Folks, those that have watched our show, just remember we're going to do the second half of it coming up in the next part. Be sure to tune in to ShopTheTV.com. This is the Cookery at the Village Pantry.